All right, so now let's go ahead and look at while loops. For loops were great because when when we knew exactly when we were wanting to start and when we wanted to end, how many times we wanted to go through a loop, for loops are great. But sometimes you run into situations where you're not quite sure how many times you need to loop through something. And so situations like that, while loops are great. And the way that while loops work is they look at this conditional statement, and while this statement is true, it'll run through the loop until that statement turns false. And once it turns false, it'll kick you out of the loop. So sometimes a practice that some use is they set a flag or a sentinel value where they can set this sentinel that'll kind of tell you, hey, are you done or not? So we set it to false, it's not done. So we said, okay, while it's not done, go ahead and loop through until it is done. Okay. And in this situation, we're counting from 1 to a specified magic number. In this case, it's a 10. So let's go ahead and look and see how that output looks. So we count from 1 to 10. Um, and So we can shorten this up a bit if we wanted to rearrange some things and not use a sentinel value. So let's go ahead and show you how that's done. So we'll take that out. We'll move this check in here. Now remember we said that this value doesn't get, or the loop only executes while this is true. And so since this is false right off the bat, we want to make sure that we're looping until it is true. Okay, so that way we can get rid of all these. Now this isn't going to give us quite the same input because of this. Because remember, when we put an increment after the variable, it increments that value after it outputs that value. So if we want it to increment the value before we do anything with it, we'll put it here. And then we'll also want to start at 0 instead. So the way that it works is it'll go in, check to see if this statement's true. If it's true, it'll execute this. And then we have to have something that'll alter this statement each time through the loop so we don't end in an infinite loop. So that's why we're incrementing this current number until this is satisfied. Okay, so let's go ahead and look and see what this results. Okay, so we've got our 1 through 10. Um, and so it's all looking good. So that's kind of how you would use a while loop when you don't know how many times you need to um, go through a loop until that certain condition is met. So hopefully that helps.